For everyone listening or watching right now, what we're about to talk about is a 1% of 1% conversation. Because when I look at the things in my life that have had the biggest impact in my life, we've already talked about them, the power of language is the most important.
Welcome to Give a Heck. I am your host, Dwight Heck, and for much of my life, lived my life in quiet desperation, wondering how I was going to pay the bills, take vacations, save for retirement, and one day wondering if I would get off the hamster wheel of life and have purpose. A life that most of society lives, which takes us to work, then home, then repeat, and pays us hopefully enough just to survive. The harsh truth that most live with more months than money and have no idea how to live life on purpose, not by accident. This ensures the mass majority are living not just financially broke, however emotionally and mentally as well due to financial pressures. In each episode, I will introduce you to thoughts, ideas, and guests that can help you to learn how you too can live life on purpose, not by accident.
Good day, and welcome to Give a Heck. On today's show, I welcome Rob Cressy. Rob is a coach and entrepreneur who helps leaders make a bigger difference in less time through generative AI, self-development, and brand building. As a catalyst for growth, he seamlessly integrates vision, strategy, and execution. His unique approach changes the way you think, take action, and interact with the world. His positive energy is a superpower that shines through everything he does, inspiring audiences to thrive in both business and life. I'd like to welcome you to the show, Rob. Thanks so much for agreeing to come on and share with us some of your life journey.
Dwight, super excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm super excited for my best podcast guest ever, as you laid it out for me. So you've got that bar way up here, brother. So you better deliver.
Well, there's no doubt I'm going to deliver. And here's why. As a fellow podcast host myself, one of the keys to being an incredible podcast guest is setting expectations, because who is more likely to be the best podcast guest ever? Someone who doesn't say anything, or someone who says, hey, Dwight, just planting the seed that this is going to be a 15 out of 10 experience. So like, Rob, how in the world do you know that you're going to deliver on that? Because if you're someone who's willing to say that this is going to be the best podcast ever, well, guess what? We're about to back this thing up.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm not making fun of you. I'm smiling because confidence breeds, right? What? Success. It really does. Even if it's just a small little spark of confidence that grows into a blazing inferno, it has to start somewhere, right? So at the end of the day, you're confident. I'm confident. So we're going to slay this. We're going to entertain the audience, both those that listen and watch on YouTube. So let's get started, Mr. Rob. One of the things I focus on, as I mentioned to you before we started recording, is a person's origin story. For those new to the Give a Heck podcast, to me, our origin is everything. People discount it, or they compartmentalize their childhood or their young adulthood. And really, at the end of the day, there's nuggets of greatness that caused you to succeed to get where you are today. So, Rob, please do me a favor, share your origin story, whatever you feel comfortable, from your earliest recollections to where you are today, please.
Yeah, 100%. So I'm Rob Cressy, and I am a husband, I'm a father, I'm a coach, and I am someone who is also a master creator and entrepreneur. I was raised in Pittsburgh, went to college at Miami of Ohio University in Cincinnati. And my dream was to live in Chicago, where I did move to, and I lived there for 12 years. Currently, I live in Sarasota, Florida. I've got a almost to be 3-year-old son, and we moved here by design. I was very excited when my wife got pregnant for the first time, and we moved from Chicago down to here. But knowing the theme of your podcast and how we can deliver value for other people, one of, if not the biggest moments in my entire life is when I left my corporate job where I was selling digital advertising, where I was very good. I was paid a lot of money, multiple six figures, but I did not wake up every single day looking forward to slinging banner ads and text links. And there was no amount of money they could have given me to be someone who wasn't willing to live my dreams. And so often on an entrepreneurial journey, people will say, well, what was that thing? What was the moment like for you when you decided and committed to leave your old life and move forward with this new one, this new vision that you have for yourself? And for me, there was one thing that I said to myself. I said, I would regret it for the rest of my life if I did not give it a shot at making my dreams happen. And at the time, my dream was to get paid to talk about sports for a living. And I would sit there in my job. And even though I was well paid and I was very good at what I would do, I would create sports blogs during work. So I estimate that it's called 50-50. So for a lot of people who have this idea of this thing that you would love to create in your life, it really starts with a little bit of a seed of discontent for where you are right now and the possibility of the future, that vision that you have. And maybe you just take 1 or 5 minutes a day, or maybe it's an hour, or maybe it's 4 hours, or maybe it's after work. And you're like, man, I just can't stop thinking about doing this thing. So I was just writing sports blogs and I was auditing the landscape, but I said to myself, man, I am as good or better than everything that I see out there. And I had to know. And for me, the bigger risk was not taking the risk at all. So I burned the boats, went all in, and went down to zero at, I believe I was either 30 or 32 years old. So it was the first 3 decades of my life. In that single decision, that single moment changed my life forever. And I truly see my life as before entrepreneurship and after entrepreneurship. Because on the very first morning of the very first day of no longer having a corporate job, in which I am all in on me and my dreams, I woke up and there was no one to tell me, when do I wake up? What do I eat? Do I go work out? What do I do? Do I have to make sales phone calls? Do I have a website? Nothing. Everything was on me. And up until that point in my life, there was a term that nobody ever told me. And I can see this in hindsight, and this blows my mind. For the first 30 years of my life, no one ever introduced the term self-awareness to me. Through K through 12 of school, 4 years of college, and a decade of corporate America, not a single person said, hey, Rob, do you know what self-awareness was? It wasn't until that very first morning when I sat there and I was like, oh my God, everything is on me. And it was like the world went from black and white to color because I understood something that changed my life forever. I am in control of every single second, every single thought, every single thing that I do for the rest of my life. And with that, I became self-aware, and then I adopted a growth mindset. And that is when I started living by design.
Wow. That brought back a lot of memories of myself when I had that first aha moment, when I started my first business as a serial entrepreneur and realizing the power of my choices was all about me. I got to choose what I wanted to do, as you mentioned. And so many people don't realize, the people that are working 9 to 5 that are listening to the show, I'm not picking on you, but there's so much over the other side of your, getting out of your comfort zone that you get to control that you don't get to control when you're working for somebody else's dreams and aspirations, because that's really what you're doing. It doesn't matter if it's for a mom and pop company or a Fortune 500 company, you're working for somebody else's dreams. Yes, you can achieve some of your dreams with the income that you make, but you will never achieve that ultimate dream of controlling your own time. Yes, as an entrepreneur, I have to worry about my own holidays. I don't get paid vacation. I don't get paid health care. I don't get any of that stuff, but I would never trade it, right? I remember my journey started in 1993, my personal development journey. And since you brought that up, one of the things that people are so weak upon and they rely so much on is social media, YouTube, podcasts, books for self-development, but they finish it, whatever that is, they've listened or read it, and they'll communicate about it and say how wonderful it was. But they lack one simple thing: action. They don't know how to go into that next portion of it. And when I talk to people about getting a mentor, whether it be me or somebody else, they always put that as a cost in their life instead of an investment. What do you utilize in your life to ensure that people understand how powerful personal development is, along with having a coach or mentor, and that it is an investment, not a cost?
The way that I think about this is a mindset, a lifestyle, in a way of being. So for me, I never set out to become a coach. Like I said, my original dream was to get paid to talk about sports for a living, which I did for a decade. And it just so happens that entrepreneurship is the greatest personal growth and development program known to man. So I'm sitting there on day zero or day one, completely at zero, no revenue, no clients, no website, no nothing, just this dream and just this vision. And remember, I was not this person you're hearing and seeing today. This is the 12 years in version. And I asked myself a question. I was like, if I bring in no money today, this week, or this month, how do I still guarantee a measure of success that is not just financial? Because if I'm only playing the financial game, and I just went from multiple six figures to $0 overnight, if I'm only using finances and money as my metrics of success, then I'm playing the wrong game. Of course, I want all of these things, but especially in an entrepreneurial journey, I need a different metric. And I realized something. There's two things that no one can ever take from you. Number one, what you learn, and number two, your mindset. And with that, I quickly understood something. I was like, okay, my goal is to make sure that I am better today than I was yesterday. And if I'm better today than I was yesterday, then I'm growing. And if something is important enough, you will always find time to make it happen. When is there always time? First thing in the morning. So the way that I created myself into a coach is by prioritizing my personal growth and development as the number one priority, first thing in the morning, every single day, weekends included, for now 12 years in a row. And the single habit that changed my life that anybody can do is so simple. So Dwight, when you're an early entrepreneur who doesn't know much or green, but you got this dream and this vision, I just start reading Fast Company and Inc. magazine. This is when people still read magazines. So you're reading all these entrepreneurial stories, and I kept hearing the same quote over and over again. The average CEO reads 60 books a year. The average CEO reads 60 books a year. The average CEO reads 60 books a year. And I asked myself, I was like, crap, I'm reading zero. And I said, man, I really got to get on this. And of course, I went through college, so I'm educated, but I'd never read in the way of the subtext of what you're hearing from these CEOs here. So I legitimately saw learning how to read on the other side of me creating my dreams. So what I ended up doing, because it was so important, is I have made the first thing that I have done every single day for 12 years, weekends included, read a book for 30 minutes. And remember, I was at zero. So it starts with Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Guy Kiyosaki, or maybe it's something by Tony Robbins. And then maybe you just go into the world of Grant Cardone and then Ryan Holiday. And then all of a sudden you start hearing about these new authors and you're like, oh my God, here's Robin Sharma. You're like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And this single thing, so Dwight, imagine this. The second I wake up, I brush my teeth, I go to get a coffee, and then I set a timer on my Apple Watch now for 30 minutes. So my eyes are still closed. It's early in the morning. And I'm just slowly waking up by reading a book for 30 minutes. Once that is done, I am already better today than I was yesterday. So for me, the greatest investment that you could possibly give for yourself is yourself. And when I had no money, my mentors and coaches were books and podcasts, which, side note, are free. You can go to the library or you can listen to an amazing podcast like this. And then eventually you'll get to a point in your journey, because I know I did, and I'm sure you did as well, where you hire your first coach. And holy smokes, is it scary. You have never in your life paid someone for me $2,000 to be your coach. You're like, oh my God, you go on these webinars that are free. You're like, oh my God, this sounds like the secret to unlocking my business. And then at the big reveal at the end, and they're like, in our 8-week program is only $5,000. And you're like, oh my God, I have no money right now. And you think that that's the secret right there. But when you finally invest in your very first coach, and for me, it was a branding coach, and he was helping me clarify my dreams and my vision and what I wanted to create for myself. And it was a seminal moment in my life and my personal growth journey. It's one that makes me emotional because so often on an entrepreneurial journey, it can feel very alone and isolating, where you've got this dream and your vision that you're working on all day, every day, that you're never stopping thinking about. Then the rest of the world around you, your friends, your family, are like, hey, Robert Dwight, what in the world is it that you do? How do you make money? I just don't understand what it is that you're doing. And it's not our goal for somebody else to understand our dream. Yes, of course, there's things that we can do to bring people into our world, but that is never my goal. But it's a challenging thing when you're all in on yourself and your dream, and everybody else around you is like, I don't understand you. And then I hired my very first coach on that very first call. He's like, hey, Rob, share with me what you're building. What's your dream? And it was the first time in my life I had another champion for me who was there that's like, cool, that's amazing. Let's do this. Changed my life forever.
Oh, yeah. A lot of what you say, of course, resonates, and it created an emotional connection for me as well, because I remember doing those, reading the books. I remember listening, I'm going to age myself, back in the day, cassette tapes. Then I went to CDs. Then I remember listening to Robert Kiyosaki's book, and it was on CDs. I had 10 CDs, and I'd put them in my vehicle, and I only had one disc changer. So I'd be driving hours to go wherever, and I'd be fumbling trying to put the next CD in, and just the evolution of my process, not realizing there was other people out there. And technology obviously has allowed us to connect with mentors and coaches, and that we would have never ever had before, right? All we had was the library. Well, all we had was, the cassettes or whatever. I remember belonging to a book of the month club where, Napoleon Hill come in, and then I'd get cassette tapes and be listening to, could have been Robert, it could have been whoever, that were at a conference, and somebody recorded that part of their speech, and I was getting that on tape and thinking, I got it. I'm kind of there. I want to take that first step, but I'm kind of stuck. Okay, well, I'm doing something now. How does that relate to what I just listened to? And when I hired my first mentor coach, I was nervous as hell, because to invest $5,000, like you said, sometimes even more. Sometimes it can just be for a short week period, or it can be, this is what it is for a month, and you got to sign up for a year. And nervous, right? I get it. It's it's that queasy feeling, but also it's an exciting feeling. It's like being so excited, but you're also afraid you're gonna throw up, right? At the same time. So I can appreciate what you shared there, Rob. That is fantastic. We have a lot of commonalities, obviously. When you talk about development and hiring that first coach, is it something that eventually you can step out of? Or do you believe you always need to have that coach? Do you elevate to another level of coaching, or a different type of coach within your brand development? What was the process like for you?
100%. And I think this is a both and. You can work with the same coach or the same mentor, because certainly we both know Ed Milet. Ed Milet's been a mentor of mine for 6 years now. So it's like, you can see where that can happen. But I know this from being on both sides of the table. As a coach, I am both on the receiving end of coaching as well as supporting other people on their journey. And you learn as a coach that sometimes your clients, and oftentimes your clients, get to a point where you're complete. And it doesn't mean they have all answers of all things, but there's an evolution, or there's a relationship in a journey. So of course, with a lot of coaches, it depends on the specialization. So my first coach was a branding coach who helped me clarify my messaging and my offering. Cool. when we were done with that, 6 weeks of clarifying the messaging and offering, I felt complete. But here's the thing, that relationship has continued. Gil and I are still friends. And it was the launching pad of our relationship. And I think this is a very nuanced part of, we'll call it a coaching relationship, because a coach creates the space that is safe for you to share anything that you want. Your lowest lows, your highest highs, and everything in between right there. Because so often you don't have that space, or you want more of that space right there. So in the process of it, sometimes you've got very defined goals. Hey, clarify my messaging and branding. Boom, I'm doing all that stuff. We're good here. But man, we're still friends. I'm still a champion for you, man. Ping me with what you got. I'm always there for you. Cool. And sometimes you graduate the levels to this game, because who was coaching me in the beginning of my journey is not the same person who would be coaching me right now, 12 years later, with what I'm looking to create in my business. Because the first coach, a brand coach, I'm just looking to clarify my messaging. Right now, I'm building communities. I'm leading programs. I have a goal of helping 10 million people. That's a significantly different person, or somebody who is speaking that language right there. So a coach is always going to have the DNA of help and love and giving in them. And the only thing that really changes right there is the container and the space of showing up consistently and committed in this given space. But man, I still think about every single one of my clients that I work with, because I legitimately care for them and I love them.
Oh, wow. What a fantastic response. But yes, I truly agree. You can get to a level. I know with my first coach, we hit a level, but we're still been friends for 30 years. And why is that? Because like-minded people, when you attract one another, why would you want to get rid of that like-minded person? Maybe you're elevated in your mindset where they can still have conversations with you and you're not paying them because you're like-minded, but it's okay to achieve that pinnacle of not needing that coach, and that you need to go somewhere else now because you're on a different journey. You've hit the Y in the road and you've gone this fork. And I've elevated above some of my coaches in my life. And it's not, no disrespect to them. They were on their path and journey, and I had bigger, grandiose goals, right, than they did. But they were an integral part, and I can think of them. And then I think of the people I've coached over the last 22 years of my finance practice. And some of them that have drifted away, some of them that had broken marriages, lost corporate businesses that I helped them with, just things that happened that caused their life to pivot. And my heart aches for them. But yet at the end of the day, I still don't stay so focused on the broken. I focus on the successes of all the people I've helped, because a lot of them are still in my life. I have clients that started with me 22 years ago. They're still my clients that I still talk to, that I still coach, because they don't want to get to my level. They are a client wanting to just live life purposefully. Their business is running okay. They don't need to make 10 million, 20 million. They don't need to be 100,000-aire or whatever the case may be. They just need to have somebody that'll see the forest for the trees, communicate with them, listen to them, call them on their stuff, but in an appropriate way. And the reason I want to get into that part of it is communication is so important. And one of the things that really intrigued me about you is something that, if you don't mind me reading, you put on Instagram yesterday. It's not too long. Would you mind if I read what you posted yesterday?
Go for it.
And the reason I bring this up is wordsmithing and communication are so important for me. I work on this every freaking day, and I wish people would understand the power of the words. So this is what Rob posted on LinkedIn. And if you're not following on LinkedIn or other social media, go do it. Rob is phenomenal. I've been following him for years. He's inspired me. He still inspires me. He's been inspiring me this morning. So I appreciate it. So the words you speak are the seeds you plant in your life. They shape who you are, and who you are guides your actions. Your actions, they create your results, shaping the reality you experience every day. If you want to change your world, Start by changing your language, how you speak to yourself and others. Speak with intention, speak with love, and watch as new possibilities unfold. Remember, abracadabra, I create as I speak. Let your words be the magic that transforms your life. So impactful. Do you know I read it 3 times? Not because it was so mind shattering, because it was so simplistic to bring across a point that I believe in with all my heart and soul, that people really, don't speak to themselves appropriately with their self talk. They don't speak to others appropriately. They use words that obviously offend others. They don't become students of human nature, of body language. They don't understand the I speak volumes, and they'll say words and keep on rambling instead of being present in the moment of the conversation. Even if they're the person communicating, they can't see that something they just said offended the person. Maybe it wasn't personal. Maybe it was something you triggered in them, and they're not bold enough or trained enough to stop and say, hey, I just noticed some body language change in you. Did I say something that I offended you? If I did, let's discuss it. That was not my intent. And then I learned from those moments throughout my last 30 years, and I grow and I become a human thesaurus. I know that certain words will mean the same thing, but it'll trigger a different reaction. Saying it in a certain phrase, in a certain way of communicating, or realizing, holy shit, Rob looks all tense. This ain't time for this conversation, brother. You know what I mean? Knowing when to open your mouth and remove all doubt. So I'm sorry for the long intro to this, listeners and people watching. And Rob, but that post you put on Instagram, or pardon me, on LinkedIn yesterday was powerful, and I wanted to read it, and I wanted our conversation to flow into regards to the power of the word.
Thank you so very much for sharing that and mirroring it back to me. For everyone listening or watching right now, what we're about to talk about is a 1% of 1% conversation. Because when I look at the things in my life that have had the biggest impact in my life, we've already talked about them, the power of language is the most important. Or as Tim Grover would say in the book, Relentless, everything's labeled number one because it's all most important. Because it is something that is so easy to not do, because any of us can just talk and there's no repercussions to our words or that we think. And when you realize that your ability to use your language creates the story you tell yourself, and the story you tell yourself creates your actions. So if you got this big vision that you have for yourself, you start to work this thing backwards. You're like, all right, here's the vision. How am I going to do it? But it really becomes, who do I get to be the person that takes the action that creates the vision? And you now start to understand that, wait a second, we can actually design the story that we tell ourselves every single day. So Dwight, this is going to go back to what I just said a few minutes ago about stacking personal growth and development first thing in the morning. Because one of my foundational parts of living by design is very simple. And I teach my clients this: audit your inputs. Garbage in, garbage out. Good in, good out. We know if we wake up and the first thing that we do is we jump on our phone, now we are on the world's agenda, because you've got the news, TV, social media, email, and what do they want? They want your attention. They're going to be slinging arrows at you: fear, judgment, self-limiting belief, comparison. The second you go into that, and of course, this doesn't mean, no, I'm not a part of the world where I don't jump on these things. This is about prioritization. That is always going to be there. So whether you do this at minute 0 of you waking up or 2 hours into you waking up, that machine is going to be humming nonstop into infinity. So you're like, all right, well, I know the world is going to shoot arrows at me the second I turn the world on. How about I work on creating the story that I tell myself? And what this ends up becoming about is creating your identity, AKA your state of being, in being in control, once again, of every single aspect of your life. And when you understand the power that words wield for yourself, you can create yourself into anybody that you want. So one of the things that really impacted my life around this is declarations, or for any of you who do I am statements, because I am are identity statements. So the second any person, myself included, says the words, I am, you now have my attention, because you're about to tell me who you are, your identity. Well, with this, are you going to wield this sword positively or negatively? When you're living by default and not by design, now when the world's going ding, 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 shooting these arrows at you, all right, this is where the fear, the judgment, the self-limiting belief, the scarcity, the comparison, all that comes in there. Or let's flip this around this way. So there's a difference between affirmations and declarations. In affirmations, a lot of times people struggle with them because they don't necessarily believe them, of like, oh, I'm going to be a millionaire one day. And they're sitting there and they're just dead broke and there's nothing's going right in their life. And that's not a bad thing, right? Because if you're sitting there and things aren't going well and you're going to have some positive self-talk, boom, I'm all for that as a step one. But there is more power accessible for us when you go from affirmations to declarations. And declarations are, I am declaring this is who I am. Like you're standing on a mountaintop. This is who I am. So for example, the very first declaration I have every single morning, I am infinite love. And there's a key to this. It's a process. Speak, see, feel. Speak, I am infinite love. See, in my mind's eye, my 2.5-year-old son, Maverick, he's sitting there waking up in the morning and he goes, Dad, 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 Dad. And I'm like, it is not possible for me to have more love for a single human being on earth right now. And I think about my wife and I think about this time with you, Dwight, right now, where I'm like, man, this is just like the epitome of love. And I'm just radiating these things. And now I'm feeling this energy of, man, my son just being like, Dad, speak, see, feel, I am infinite love. Boom. So now it's an embodied process. What's next? I am a force of attraction. There's a picture there's an emoji of a diamond. I attract the right people, the right opportunities, the right money, synchronicities, serendipities, blessings, and miracles into my life. And I see myself gleaming like a diamond. And you sit here and you're like, all right, Rob, I kind of dig this. How do I do this for myself? Well, just start with this. What does the best version of yourself look like that you absolutely know? There's no like, I'm not sure if I'm this millionaire or not. It's like, no, I know I'm infinite love, because when I see that child, boom, I'm ready. So a simple thing could be, one of mine is, I am abundantly generous and I am a giver. Every single time I give a tip, I'm going to go get pizza. It's like, oh, it's $20. I'm like, cool, I'll give them a $5 tip. Well, for most people, they just give the tip, around $5, whatever. But for me, I can use that as evidence creation of being abundantly generous and being a giver. So when I do that $5 tip, I speak, I'm abundantly generous and I'm a giver, because I want to bless that person who made that pizza and those people working that hourly wage who put this thing in there. Boom. So now I'm creating who I am. So now you understand the power that's accessible for you. And you're like, whoa. So if I can create this for myself, now this becomes your state of being. So Rob, how is it that you're just so positive and energetic every single day? This is by design, dog. Like every single aspect of our life, including our self-talk. And all of this is so important because I was not this person for 3 decades of my life. Remember, I was not self-aware. I did not have a growth mindset. So it is very easy to fall into the trap of the world, of the excuses, of the why me, of the, and this is one of my favorite phrases, it's always comfortable to be comfortable, to not do the work, to push the blame on somebody else. And Dwight, it is super easy for people to have no accountability with their words, because you can just sling those arrows left and right and it's totally normal and it's encouraged and it is designed by the news and media. And this isn't even a news and media diatribe. This just is what it is. They get paid more money by advertisers for clicking on your stuff. Here comes all the fear. Oh my God, stranger danger. So you're like, well, wait a second. There's like a 9-to-1 negativity to positivity ratio of content and messaging that's out there. We need to and get to protect ourselves in our story. And then I'll leave you with this. And we have the ability to positively use that in the way that we lift up and inspire other people. Because imagine if you, Dwight, someone listening right now, operated on this frequency and saw the power in their language to be that example for not only themselves, man, but for other people, in the way that you hold your language to such power. And oftentimes, all that is slowing down for an extra beat, a half second before you respond. This is what living with intention means to me.
No, that's what a fantastic response. You talk about, affirmations versus declarations. I discuss and coach all the time about gratefulness. Like you talk about having a routine, waking up first thing in the morning, excuse me, and communicating with yourself. I find that sometimes I have to communicate out loud. Sometimes my brain doesn't want to think. And when I communicate out loud, I have a deeper appreciation for what I'm declaring about my life. Some of it is gratefulness, because there's a difference between being grateful and having an affirmation or a declaration. But I think they all tie together and are so important in our lives. And I struggle throughout the day sometimes, and I have to sit and think to myself, okay, I just had a conversation with somebody. We'll use your name, Rob. And there were some things that really bothered me, not because it wasn't a great call, but some things as an empath that I took on. And now I feel kind of off, Rob. I just feel kind of blah. And I have to have things that I do throughout my day with that positive self-talk, my self-awareness. And I can remember the day when that hit me, brother. So I hear what you're saying. I become self-aware and I check myself out. And those listening that are new to the show, yes, I do. I time myself out. I have no problems getting done a call with somebody and shutting down everything and going over and sitting on my couch and closing my eyes, maybe having a power nap or just sitting there and listening to something positive, a podcast. I love Audible, putting on a book, something to reset my mindset, because guess what? So many of you don't realize you're worthy. You're important to check in, to be self-aware, to be grateful, to have those declarations. I like how you differentiated the differences between having an affirmation and a declaration. So I appreciate that too. I know myself, without my gratefulness, sometimes I wake up and I'm my brain is just thinking different, and I'll rush to get ready because I got something going on and I forgot to do it. And hours later, I kind of feel off, brother. And it's just like, what the hell's going on? Why am I feeling like this? And I'll have this light bulb. You forgot to be grateful. You forgot to talk about what you're declaring for today, that today's going to be a great day. And even before I go to bed, I don't know if you do this, I'm very self-aware about what happened through my day. And I check in with myself again and I'll say, you know what, this happened. And I allowed this feeling to creep in. And even though I dealt with it at that time, what can I do better tomorrow so those feelings don't creep in? And I self-talk myself into a point where when I go to bed, I sleep more peaceful too, because I haven't let my mind control me. Like most people don't realize our brain is a giant computer, right? It just thirsts for input. It thirsts for knowledge. And if you don't give it that, all that outside influences you talk about from first thing in the morning with the media. And I know Ed and Andy talk about it all the time. Why are you looking at your phone first thing in the morning? You shouldn't be doing that. You can check in, as you mentioned, later on, but what is your structure? And one of the things that impressed me too, I was looking at your website and I love the vulnerability of the circle of how you spend your day. I loved it. For those, go to Rob's website. I'll make sure it's in the show notes. It's robcressy.com, right? Yeah, go to that and look at he's got at the bottom, he's got a pie chart where he talks about where it's his family, it's his work, and it's Cressy time, like Rob's time. And I was smiling. I was thinking, you know what? So simplistic, but so powerful. And it spoke volumes. And now you've affirmed that, obviously, of who you are as an individual. And I know that people listening or watching are thinking to themselves, what a journey Rob's been on to a point where I'm adding now, go check out the website. He's developed into a man that lives intentional. And what I focus on, living that purposeful, intentful, self-aware life of touching others, but making sure you touch yourself and your family first. And so I just wanted to bring that up. I appreciate you a lot. Is there anything else you want to add about that?
I do. Thank you. And it's 2 words. The first word is anchor, and the second word is process. Now, I want to make this very simple because, once again, my coaching comes from the way I reverse engineered my process for how I created myself into this, not to become Rob, but to become your own version of the best version of yourself. So, Dwight, when you and I do anything from gratitude to declarations, what this becomes is, what is your anchor in your life? That positive story. There's a book that really changed my life, The Power of Consistency by Weldon Long. And he said something that was so simple. He goes, you know why most people will never achieve their dreams? Because they just don't spend enough time on them. And it's very simple. We're recording this at the end of October, and the new year is going to be coming up. And the majority of people in the world will set a New Year's resolution, and within 2 weeks, maybe a month, they never revisit it. And it is boom, in one day, gone the next. But the best in the world, great clarity of vision. They say, this is my dream. This is my vision. This is my goal. This is what I want. And we write it down, or we speak it, or we put it on camera, any number of media that we have for creating that clarity of vision. And then every single day, we reread that vision. Why? Drip, 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 awareness. So for me, I've created, there's 3 powers. The power of intention. Boom. I intend to create this vision, and this is how I'm going to show up. Number 2, the power of awareness. How aware am I of these things in my life? Do I see my vision and my dreams every single day? Because number 3 becomes the power of consistency. Because imagine, and they always say this, of like, you want a red Lamborghini. So imagine every single day, and you know this from the world of visualization or manifestation. You want a red Lamborghini, and every single day you just open up that picture of that red Lamborghini, and you just sit there and you're touching the black leather, and you're seeing the lines on that thing, and you're creating this embodied experience. Man, you're going to feel so much closer. Your mind moves towards what it's most familiar with. So if every day, red Lamborghini, as opposed to the person who's like, yeah, I dream of having a red Lamborghini someday. Cool. And you check in a year later, and it's like, oh, do you have that Lamborghini? It's like, oh, no, man, I totally forgot about that. I didn't even read. Oh, man, I really should have done something about that, right? So that leads us to number 2, process. So you create these anchors in your life that say, all right, what do I want a constant reminder of to create that speak, see, feel, that embodied state of being, or that identity for yourself? So now living by design becomes a process that is like Lego blocks or like building a house. They stack on top of each other. So the 2 questions I would offer you and everyone: what is your anchor or anchors? And what is your process? And one tip that I'm going to give that, Dwight, I think you're going to love, because it's one of the things that I hear the most when I'm doing group coaching, is around gratitude. You always hear, man, you should be more grateful in your life. Just like you said, it's like, cool, Dwight and Rob, I get it. Where am I going to find the time to be more grateful? I live a full life. I've got work, family, kids, all that. So one of the simple things that really transformed my life is the concept of triggers. Our ability to turn one thing into something else. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, you, Dwight, I'm about this life. And I kept hearing, be more grateful, gratitude. I'm like, all right, cool. How can I easily, effortlessly do this in my life? So now I just start thinking about everyday common things. And I'm like, well, every morning I do brush my teeth and pick up my toothbrush within the first minute of my day. So for most of us, we'll sit there and maybe it's 5 a.m. You're just like closing your eyes. You're like, I'm not even awake yet. And then also you do this again at night before you go to bed. And some people might just be on their phone or they're just looking at themselves in the mirror. Or our toothbrush could become a trigger for saying 3 things that we're thankful for. So all of a sudden, I'm like, oh, this is a fun little game of self-creation. Now, every single time I pick up my toothbrush, I'm like, I'm thankful for my dog. I'm thankful for being a Pittsburgh Penguins fan. And I'm thankful for living in Sarasota, Florida. Boom, put that thing down. Happened gratitude in the first 60 seconds of me being up. Then it happens again at night. Boom, I'm thankful for this incredible podcast with Dwight. I'm thankful that I got to spend a day with my son, and I'm thankful I got to shoot hoops. Boom. Well, now all of a sudden, power of intention, cool, we're doing it. Power of awareness, there's that toothbrush. Power of consistency, twice a day. So you can go from 0 times of gratitude to 6 drips of gratitude a day times 365 days, which is, let's just call it 2,000 little nuggets of gratitude, and takes 0 effort in maybe 12 seconds of time. Anchor process. And Dwight, I'll give one other example to really clarify how simple this can be. So when I moved to Sarasota 3 years ago, it was our first house. So there's a refrigerator there. And I go to take this exact water bottle and put it underneath to get the water from the fridge. And all of a sudden, it just like dripped slow. And immediately my negative self-talk was like, you got to be kidding me. It's going to take me 2 minutes to fill up this water bottle. This is taking forever. Now I'm legitimately angry at this refrigerator. And I'm going to only live here for the next, I don't know, decade of my life with a slow filling up refrigerator. And that's when the little alarm bells went off. Like, ding, 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 low incongruency. Anytime something like this pops up, it's like, yo, Rob, what's going on right here? You about to live your life in scarcity over this dripping water? And I was like, oh, thanks, positive self-talk. Let me sit here and what I can do about this. And I was like, wait a second. I probably fill up my water bottle, let's go out 5 times a day. What if instead of being frustrated over it taking 2 minutes, I self-created and turned this into a trigger for filling up my cup of belief? So now the whole glass half full, glass half empty, now I am watching as the water is filling up. I am that I believe. Inhale belief. Exhale doubt. 5 times a day with the water bottle. So to wrap a bow on this, my encouragement is look in your everyday life. The toothbrushes, the water bottles, the dog leashes of your life that mean nothing to 99.99999% of people in the world, except for you. And the opportunity to say, wow, I walk my dog 3 times a day. Imagine if I just turned that into a trigger for ... Insert a state of being or identity statement or something that you would love an awareness of in your life.
Oh, yeah. People that are watching or listening, rewind that part, rewind the whole podcast, just listen to it again. That was amazing because at the end of the day, it's what we see. We either see anger, as Rob mentioned, or we see it as a moment for an epiphany or whatever you want to call it, for that positive trigger for us to think differently. And I work on that all the time. I know Rob, very positive guy. I know myself, I still go up and down the roller coaster of life. I still have those moments of character building versus those explosive moments of clarity, right? I have different moments in my day, but if I don't check in, I don't have a little bit of gratefulness and for just the fact of, oh, wow, there's so many people out there right now that would love to be in my position of being upset about a fridge because they don't even have a fridge that fills up their bottle with water, right? There's so simple little things that we can look at. One of the things I wanted to flow into with that part of the conversation was core values. you list your core values on your website. For those, again, check out his website. For those of you that know Rob and have checked out his site, he lists his core values. I always thought I understood core values until I joined Arte back in 2018, and Arte's got some very specific core values, which I super appreciate. I always had core values. I called them core values, but I never really understood the power of core values. So, Rob, tell the listeners in your definition what core values are, because some people aren't going to understand, and how they've impacted your life as you've transgressed to where you are today.
So this is something that I definitely learned, and I learned it from Andy and Ed and being a part of Arte. And on my website, all of this is on my About page. And it says the 8 core values that are foundational to who Rob Cressy is. This is my DNA. This is the absolute. This is my non-negotiable. You see me, you have a conversation with me, you create with me, you're coached by me, or I'm being coached by you, or I'm on a podcast with you. This is what I am going to radiate in all that I do. And I'm going to share them because this is something that is very specific. It's very intentional. It is a mixture of things that this isn't something that I Googled. This is who you are. And so much of our conversation is a 1 degree of identity statement, living by design, stories you're telling yourself, foundations, consistency, and planting that flag. So my 8 core values, number 1, radiate positivity in everything that I do. For me, this is very simple. It's binary. Positivity is a 1, negativity is a 0, because negativity is going to take me further away from where I want to go. Therefore, it has no place in my life. Number 2, always learning. This is growth mindset 101. This goes back to why I read every single morning for 30 days, because if we're always learning, then we're always growing. Number 3, extreme ownership. This is all around accountability, because with the gift of self-awareness also comes, wow, I'm in charge of every single aspect of my life. But that's not always the narrative for a lot of people. For some people, it's like, oh my God, you're telling me I have to be in charge of all areas of my life? Extreme ownership. This is about accountability. Number 4, live in action. And this is in all areas of my life. And it's a very simple thing. And I coach and create around this. Stacking 1s over 0s. This is not about hustle culture. This is about living in action towards what sets your soul on fire. The next one, be relentless. So we're living in action. Now let's really go and get what we want. And where this energy comes from, I've already shared that I used to work in corporate America for 10 years in a job that I hated. And I'll give a specific example. My very first job out of college, I was actually super broke. I went a year and a half out of college without a job. I lived off my credit card. I was in debt, man. And I had a marketing degree from a great university. I had a dream of working for an ad agency, and none of that ended up happening. Instead, I was dirt broke. And the very first job that I got out of college, my first real job, was in a Fifth Third Bank call center in Cincinnati, Ohio, in a cube farm, selling home equity loans inbound, making $10 an hour with a computer that had no email and no internet access. I hated my life. I woke up every single day. Man, I could not wait for 5 o'clock to get there. Every single week, man, I dreaded my life. So when I would give myself the gift of going all in on my dreams, guess what? Be relentless. This is about relentless for what's setting your soul on fire. The next one is a simple one. Because remember, we don't have to overthink this because so much of this is already inside of ourselves. Do what's right. Every day before I would leave the house growing up, my dad, I grew up in a very conservative Christian home, and my dad would say, hey, Rob, do what's right. Every single time I left the door, do what's right. Do what's right. Well, Dwight, you know how important integrity is for people like you and I? Yeah, there's personal integrity. There's also the way that we show up and the way that we help other people. And imagine if Everybody else just came from the core value of doing what's right. And then the last one for me is talk with candor, because I want you to be open and honest and coming from a place of integrity when you talk to me. And I'm going to do the same for you, because that's what I would want you to do to me. And candor is so important, because there's levels to this game. And Dwight, if I had a piece of food in my teeth, I would want you to be like, hey, Rob, you got some food in your teeth. Not, oh my God, Rob might be embarrassed by this. I can't tell him he's got food in his teeth. And that's obviously the simple example. But we live in a world where so many people are not willing to say something out of the name of discomfort. But there's a difference between candor and discomfort, because Dwight, you know this as a coach. Man, the greatest gift you can give a client, or the greatest thing a coach can give you, is to tell you the truth, because that is the thing that the majority of the world which will not tell you. So for me, those are my 8 core values of who I am. And hopefully in hearing my energy and how I share this, you get what core values can mean for you too.
No, absolutely. Core values are very, very important. I like the one point you made about, candor and being truthful. And really, who are you trying to protect if you don't tell somebody about having broccoli in their teeth, or, a woman having toilet paper hanging out? I've seen that before. They caught it and they come out of the washroom. At the end of the day, most people are grateful. Yes, they may have a moment of being, embarrassed, but really at the essence, they're grateful, because instead they'd be walking around having people laugh at them as they talk because they got broccoli in their teeth, or they're just, you know what I mean? Get over your own uncomfort to be that honest, ultimate version of you and being genuine. So thank you for breaking down your core values. Rob, do you believe there's a magic number of core values, or is there a magical number, or is it just something that you need to lay out to be your roadmap for your life?
I don't believe there's a magic number. I would say if you're going above 10, it's probably a bit much, because you're at core who you are. Like, you can feel when I talk about my core values. But of course, Dwight, you and I, if we were to take a word farmer's sentiment analysis from our conversation of this podcast, there would be about 50 to 100 words that you and I would be like, oh man, love this. Oh, love this, love this, love this. Man, you're embodying it as part of who you are. It's all over the place. And so many people allow perfection to actually stop them from creating version 1.0. So if you're like, Rob and Dwight, man, I can only think of 3 of them. Great, because I would love to see version 1.0 of your core values, instead of this perfect version at 0 where you're like, I don't know, is it 3? Is it 5? Is it 7? Is it 8? Don't worry about that. Go with what goes well for you first, but just know, man, if you're getting that bumpy above 10, might be a little bit much. Can we combine some of them? Where is there some energy difference? There's no right or wrong for this. That's more of just sort of a best practice.
Yeah, perfect. I like how you put that, though. 0 is in action. Just take some action, write some things down, develop it as you go. And I tell people when I would talk about core values, listen to your body. Listen, like, how are you feeling when you write that down? Does it involve any form of sadness? Does it involve happiness? It better be involving emotions that are going to drive you forward in a positive way, to drive out negativity and drive out sadness. It just simple little things that I give people as a guide, right, in regards to core values. But I appreciate, again, your breakdown and your conversation about that. So many people do not take it serious, and I hope they do. So the last part of the show, I wanted to talk about your latest offering in serving and supporting others and teaching the proper use of AI. Specifically, you focus on ChatGPT. First and foremost, many are confused exactly what AI is, right? I get people saying that all the time. They think they know what it is, but they really don't know. Some are either completely on board of it. Some of them are conspiracy nuts that say, oh my gosh, we're going to get taken over by the robots, and et cetera, et cetera. Rob, share with us everything you know about AI, including the definition of what AI is for those that are still confused, and take it wherever you'd like, please, brother.
Yeah, for sure. Let's keep this light, easy, and fun. I'm not overly technical. I don't have some nerd background in cloud computing or data analytics or any of these things. I used ChatGPT 2 years ago when it came out in beta for the very first time in the very first week. And within the first minute of using it, I felt like I just used the internet for the first time. Immediately, I saw what the next 10 years of business looks like. And I was like, oh, I'm all in. This is going to change the world. So often with me, I'm going to say AI and ChatGPT synonymously as the same thing because I don't need to get overly complex. AI, artificial intelligence, because you know what uses AI? Alexa, Siri. So it's already part of our everyday life. It is just use cases to where it's been so ingrained. You're not like, oh, that's something other voice, technology plus a voice that is creating an output for us. So that's AI holistically, and it's going to mean a lot of things to a lot of different people. It's computers and data sets and intelligence that can spit out things in a way that has never been done before. But I oftentimes just use ChatGPT, or I'm a ChatGPT coach, because it passes the mom test, AKA ChatGPT is the Xerox of the AI industry. So there's other chatbots, AKA generative AI out there, just like ChatGPT. There's Google as Gemini. There's a thing called Claude. But if I go to my mom and I'm like, hey, mom, what do you think about Gemini and Claude? She's going to be like, what are you talking about? But if I'm like, hey, mom, have you ever heard of ChatGPT? She's like, yeah, I think I heard about that on the news. Oh, well, as just a smart and logical entrepreneur, business owner, coach, and marketer, how about I just brand myself around the thing that is the Xerox of the industry that everybody understands, ChatGPT. So the first step, if you're at zero, is just go to chatgpt.com and use it for the first time. And you're like, well, what do I put in there? Whatever you think. Just there's no right or wrong reason for that. So that's the foundation to all of this. Number two, with ChatGPT specific, I'm not romantic about this stuff, but so many people sit here and they're like, man, if I was only around when Facebook was invented or YouTube or Google ads, man, I would have made so much money. I can't wait for that next thing because when that next thing happens, I'm going to capitalize off of it. Ding, 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 ding. AI and ChatGPT is that thing. This is like the next revolution of the world. Like, no hyperbole when I say this is like the internet was just invented again. This is how big this was. So we're now going to have the generic bell curve of early adopters, everybody else, laggards, all of that stuff right now. So we're so early in this journey. And there's one thing that immediately separated me from 99% of people in the world. So the very first week ChatGPT came out on Twitter, I'm seeing people be like, oh my God, I can write a blog post that sounds like Daffy Duck. This is so cool. Ha, ha, ha. And with me being an entrepreneur, I'm like, how do I turn $1 into $1.50? Can this thing help me run a better business? And it doesn't mean this is going to spit out a lottery ticket, but I truly believe there are millions and billions of dollars at our ability to ask ChatGPT the right questions. It doesn't mean it's saying, Robin Dwight, here's $1 million, but here's the strategy. Here's the systems. Here's the process. Here's the yes and creative partner. Here's the ideas that you're bouncing around. Here's the structure that you or your team can now go execute on. So if we're not being romantic about this, ChatGPT is just a tool. It is all it is. So for everyone who's like, the robots are taking over, cool. If that's a narrative you want to believe in, and quite frankly, it's great for my business if you believe the robots are taking over, because I and my clients are going to leverage this in a way that supports our dreams and visions and being the best version of ourselves. So for me, I look at this very simply. Helps me save more time, get more done, be more efficient, create higher quality output, and you can do so in a way that is light, easy, and fun. And the thing that stops most people is, I don't know what I don't know. Well, welcome to this entire conversation Dwight and I just had. Remember, we all started at zero with no self-awareness and growth, no growth mindset. The same is true for AI and ChatGPT. You say, listen, I'm open because that's growth mindset 101. I'm not trapped in this position of stranger danger. Here come the robots. Hey, I'm curious, interested, or cautious, but I'm open. And that's why I exist. Because I say, listen, I don't want the robots to take over either. I watched Demolition Man. Not about that life in those shells. Instead, I want to leverage human first. Well, what in the world does that mean? Well, ChatGPT is just my creative partner. And if there's one thing you take away from what I share with ChatGPT, it is this. I just taught this on a masterclass on Wednesday. We believe in human first AI. So here's our formula for how we create with ChatGPT. We call it the human AI sandwich. We just made this up. Human, you start with what you want, your idea, your thoughts, your transcript, your vision, whatever prompt you want. Boom, you're first. Next comes AI. So ChatGPT comes in here and it's like, oh, I want to build a coaching program all around helping people build the best version of themselves. Cool. What's the first thing that I do, ChatGPT? It's like, oh, you might want to outline your fundamentals for the transformation process. Can you share what those are with me? Oh, yeah. Cool. The next thing that you might want to do is organize this into a catalog so people can consume the videos. Oh, all right. Cool. What do I title this video? I don't know. What's it about? Growth mindset on days when it's challenging. Oh, okay. Well, what about these 5 ideas? And you've got all of that. And then once it spits all of it out, we come in here again at the bottom and put the human touch on things. So we started with our idea of what we wanted. ChatGPT was our yes and creative partner, helping us with the strategy and all that. And then we layer in our own energy, heart, and authenticity in the way that we're doing these things. And once you understand this simple process, ChatGPT is just a creative partner for helping you get more done with less.
Oh, I agree. It's something though too that I found with ChatGPT, and I have tried out a couple others. If you're not a person that knows how to ask good questions already in your life, you might struggle. You really will, because you can ask the wrong thing to ChatGPT and get the wrong result. Or you can be that person that thinks that the answer you get is right, realizing that it culminates from multiple different data servers and structures that are out there in regards to information. I will literally put in a question and then reword it and see what I get again, right? I'll play with it. I'll say, like you talk about, I'll tell it to change the tonality, not to Daffy Duck, but I'll get it to do something that's more comedic, or I'll play around with it. At the end of the day, it's back to what we've been talking about this whole podcast. You have to take action. You have to play with it. And, it doesn't mean that you don't need a great coach like yourself or a mastermind that'll help you structure and utilize the product in its infancy, because really it is in its infancy still, to make a massive difference in your life. Don't be like some of the people I know already that are leaning on it too much. They're relying on it for everything, and they forgot what you said. At the end of it, it's still the human condition. You still have to go in and put that human touch and massage it to be utilized, the greatness that is you. So it's a tool, 100% a tool. I appreciate your breakdown of your input into what it's become for yourself, your team, and helping others. Any last comments about AI that you'd like to bring up?
Yeah, number one, where the people with the pickaxes are going to come in is, it told me that George Washington landed on the moon in 1947, and that's wrong. So this thing is terrible, right? Cool. Go back to what I originally said. I want to use this for business growth. So understand the use case of what it is good at. Write me a social media strategy for how I can leverage short form video on LinkedIn that I then want to create into podcast guests. Boom. It's not going to tell you George Washington landed on the moon. But if you say, I need specific data, and this is for my company's annual report, guess what? Probably not the best thing, because it even says there at the bottom, this thing can give infactual or erroneous information. So where is there no downside? If it tells me how to write a social media strategy, it's not going to go, Rob, I want you to stand on top of your car and bark like a chicken. You're like, that's what it told me to do? Social media strategy? No. You're just going to pass your own sniff test, right? And you said, Dwight, where it's like, if you don't like the output it gave you, it's like, wow, where was I not clear? Where did I not ask a better question? Or am I telling it to do too much here? So once you understand this, and this is a simple thing, just focus on the problems in your business or what you would love to create in your life. And if this is a business lens, you're not going to get into trouble with George Washington being on the moon because it's irrelevant. The erroneous information is a 0 out of 0 for me because there's no use case in the way that I'm using it where I'm asking it to give me something where it can be wrong. Because ultimately, human, me first, AI second. If it's not right, I'm looking at that and being like, this is not the right thing. Third, human. And from that standpoint, because think about this, Dwight, here's the easiest idea. Hey, I would love for you to give me 10 names for my podcast around being the best version of myself. There you go. You might look at them and say, wow, I like 2 of those. That's good. You might look at them and say, I don't like any of those. Make sure to use the word turbo in there. Oh, those are just ideas. But it's not going to say, you idiot, that's not a good. No, it doesn't work that way. Like, let's lead it to where it's going to be good. Once you understand this, you no longer have to worry about infactual information because it's not a part of your process.
Absolutely. I smile and chuckle about AI and utilizing ChatGPT. And I tell people, just have fun with it. Don't be so serious about it. Like you talked about podcast titles. I did that one time a long time ago and I come up with 10. And I thought, okay, what is the ultimate length of a podcast title? I asked it that. And then it told me. So I said, okay, tell me based on this and this many words, right? People don't realize you can even tell it to do, like you said, you could put the word turbo in, play. You guys will spend all this time on social media, drinking the Kool-Aid, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. I'm not saying there's not some value for entertainment or some knowledge, or you'll watch television and get engulfed in it or get sidetracked by everything else. How about you make this part of your routine? Just start playing 15, 20 minutes, half hour a day on ChatGPT. Use the free version, right? There is a free version. And just go and play and ask it questions and ask the silliest things too, just to make you smile. Some of the results you get could be just awesome. So I really appreciate you talking about that, brother.
You're welcome. I'll leave you with this tip. What I teach my clients is get in your 20 hours. If you get in 20 hours, you'll be more proficient than 95% of people in the world. So literally, Rob, where am I going to find that time? 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week. Because the number one thing I hear from every single client that I work with, CEOs, entrepreneurs, business leaders, and coaches, is when they get to a certain point, they say, Rob, I'm using ChatGPT every single day. It is always up. That is where they get it because you just want to learn how to ride a bike. That's all it is. So let's get in your reps of training wheels. Hey, what do I name my dog? Oh, that's so funny. Create me a joke about my dog. Oh my God. And then you just slowly are like, well, what if I did this for business? Can it also do this? Oh my God, it can do this. And Dwight, why do people hire coaches? Because we can help you get there faster. You're by all means willing to go there and do this on your own. I've got a YouTube channel, go to Unlimited Coach on YouTube. I'll give you all the free information that you want. But the key is you got to get in the reps and you got to get in the experience. Don't overthink this. It is not hard. It is super, super simple.
Yeah, take action. Absolutely. So, Rob, if you had to give our listeners one last closing message, what would you tell them in regards to giving a heck and never giving up?
What I would tell them to never giving up and always giving a heck. Number one, it matters and you matter. So this starts with The way you show up every single day has a positive impact in the world. On my Built for the Game manifesto, which hangs in my bathroom, there's something that says, the world needs more of you. That's what that dripped into my head. The world needs more of you. Because that's the truth about this. And Dwight, it's what I love about giving a heck in what you're saying there. Because to me, live by design, you give a heck, not by default. The rest of the world who says, you know what, it's somebody else's fault. Scarcity mindset right there. And then number two, and this is the most important thing of my entire life, of my entrepreneurial journey, believe. I believe in you. So you're sitting here and you've made it all this far in this podcast or in this video. And you're like, man, what can I take away from Rob and Dwight? Not only believe in yourself, but know I believe in you and Dwight believes in you. And I'm not saying this with hyperbole or any garbage because I truly believe this, because at some point in my journey, somebody injected some love and positivity and belief in myself. And a lot of times when you have this big vision for yourself, you may doubt your own belief, but sometimes you just need someone to mirror back to you. You know what? Even though we've never met, even though we've never spoken in person, and maybe hopefully one day we will, I believe in you. So if you're going through a challenging time right now, or you're at zero, or you're stuck, or you've got this big dream and goal and you're not sure how you're going to do it, I believe in you, because the more that you believe in yourself, the only thing that'll stop you is giving up. So triple down on belief. And when you don't believe in yourself, go and send Dwight or I a message and we'll shoot some positivity and belief in you.
What a great, fantastic closing message. Thanks, Rob. So our time is almost up. I want to respect our listeners and your time. However, before we end this podcast, could you please let the listeners and viewers know what's the best way they can reach you?
Yeah, I love hearing from people. Love it, love it. You can hit me up on Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn at Rob Cressy. You can find me on YouTube. You can search Unlimited Coach for some ChatGPT tutorials. And I run a coaching community and program called Unlimited Coach. You can go to unlimited.coach. And then lastly, I have a podcast called Built for the Game around winning in business and life for the long haul.
Sweet. For those new to the show, go to giveaheck.com. Go to the top where it says podcast. You will see a picture of Rob when you scroll down, along with the show notes that will list his social media contacts as well as information he just gave, so that you have all those tools in one place so you can access Rob and the amazing person that he is. Like, what an amazing podcast. I have to agree, this would be my number one podcast. I said it out loud. My listeners and viewers are hearing it. This has been so energized, so fulfilling. Literally, my cup is flowing over, and I appreciate that, because it takes a lot for people to do that with me at my point in the game. So any last words before I wrap up the show?
Everything is possible.
Perfect. I love it. Thanks so much for being on Give a Heck, Rob. I appreciate your time and sharing some of your experiences so that others too can learn. It is never too late to give a heck.
Thank you for taking time out of your day and listening to Give a Heck. If you find value, I'd appreciate you sharing with your friends and family so they too can learn how to live life on purpose, not by accident. So you do not miss the next episode, please subscribe on your favorite podcast platform, and please also post a review. I look forward to reading your comments. This has been Dwight Heck. If you want to check out other podcast episodes or today's show notes, please check out my website, giveaheck.com. And until next time, together let us all strive to give a heck.